Wow. What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, and I just got done watching the Sony State of Play, the last one of 2019, and I am just so... It was bizarre how freaking perfect that was. So obviously, these State of Plays are kind of like a PlayStation version of a Nintendo Direct. It's like a way for Sony to show off a bunch of trailers and reveals and stuff to get us hyped. And oh man, did this one work. I mean, I'm just going to say right up front, this, in my opinion, is easily the best of all the State of Plays. It was so jam-packed with extra cool stuff, including huge details about the Resident Evil 3 remake. In fact, that's a majority of what this video is going to be about, but I do want to talk about some of the other announcements first. So what they decided to open with is some little tiny teasers of some random indie games, things that are going to be coming soon, and lots of release dates. One of them being the fact that Untitled Goose Game is actually coming to PlayStation 4. Huge congrats to those developers, that game is hilarious, and they deserve to be able to sell more copies. Then after that, they actually showed a bunch of stuff about Kingdom Hearts DLC. Now, we knew that Remind was coming. From the very beginning, we knew that there was going to be DLC, but what's really kind of surprising is that the DLC is going to be basically Final Fantasy focused. It's going to bring back the Final Fantasy characters that, in my opinion, were very badly removed from the main game. Kingdom Hearts 3 was fun. I certainly thought it was cool, but my big problem was, without Final Fantasy, it didn't really kind of grab me as much. Disney is fine, but I've always played Kingdom Hearts for the Final Fantasy characters. So the fact they're coming back, that to me is a big deal. Next up, they finally gave us another teaser trailer for Ghost of Tsushima. Now this, obviously samurai sword fighting awesomeness, we still have seen very little of it. There's actually been tons of speculation that this might be a PlayStation 5 game, just because it's been so long since we've really gotten a chance to see like a 2-minute trailer or something on it. Now apparently, this little teaser trailer just exists to try and hype up that we're going to be seeing even more of it very soon, I think at the Game Awards. That's great. While this is fantastic, I kind of just wish we saw a little bit more of it here to try and whet our appetites. The same way that we just got a giant reveal all about the Resident Evil 3 remake. Okay, you guys know that I'm obsessed with Resident Evil, but Resident Evil 3 specifically has always been a very different kind of beast, because Resident Evil 2 was all about trying to introduce Raccoon City. Resident Evil 2 had 2 separate discs when you bought it on PlayStation, so you could play as Leon or Claire. It gave you different options and different dialogue, basically. Different ways to try and beat a single story. Now, I've always liked Resident Evil 3 because it was more contained. You played as Jill Valentine, other than, of course, where the chapter you play as Carlos Oliveira, you played as one character going through one story, and the way they managed to change things up is, as you were playing the game, it could actually twist and turn. It could have these little dynamic changed moments. It seems like they're trying to do that here. So in the State of Play, they showed a surprising amount of raw gameplay. They showed about a full minute of just literally walking around in the streets fighting something, and as soon as it starts, I want to show this like screenshot right here. So as you can see for yourself, this is a typical alleyway in Raccoon City with some undead, some blood splattered on the walls, some really cool lighting effects. But what's really interesting to me is how many different pathways are around her. It actually looks like you could, if you really wanted, walk in a lot more directions. I think that what they may try and do is maybe make Resident Evil 3 more hub-based. Imagine if they made it where you could actually walk to multiple spots. You could go over here and get the piece of a clock and bring it over here to the gemstone puzzle and then have to go back. They could basically give you like the entire map of Resident Evil at once and then give you a chance to zigzag back and forth to beat it in the order that you would like. Now, the reason I think that this is true is more than just this little gameplay clip. It's because they showed us a like several minute trailer actually revealing the game itself, and a huge focus of it was about Nemesis. Obviously, the name is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Now, if you were ever scared of Mr. X, the big difference between Mr. X and the Nemesis is that Mr. X X is more based on his fists. Mr. X is like a super zombie. He is a creature that cannot be killed and has bulletproof skin, but at the end of the day, he is still just kind of a torpedo that walks towards whatever's in front of him. What really makes Nemesis different and a lot more scary, and part of the reason he is such a legendary foe, is that he is actually intelligent. He has a programming inside him. In fact, if you read the Resident Evil comic books and the Resident Evil books, which I have a feeling they're actually pulling from for this game, you realize that Nemesis thinks. He is a monster. He has gone through tons and tons of surgeries and augmentations to create him as this giant, gross, gooey thing, but he was originally a human being. And so because of this, he's able to use weapons, he's able to actually think and jump and kind of follow you anywhere, but what's really interesting is he's able to plan. So by far, the most interesting thing in this entire trailer is at one point it's showing Jill Valentine running all through this building that's on fire, and at one point she picks up a bookshelf and throws it in front of a doorway. Now this to me is very, very subtle, but I feel like it's actually a giant cue as to something they may have changed. After she runs away, we see the Nemesis bust through a wall to try and get her, and what makes me think is, what if they decided to change a little bit how we deal with Nemesis? What if instead of just trying to shoot or run, what if we have more of a hide-and-seek mechanic? Now this wouldn't be totally impossible, and I feel like it could actually open up the doorways to having more interesting encounters with him. Imagine if whenever you hear Nemesis, whenever you start to hear that stars like off on the horizon, you get a chance to try and hide. Say you have like 15 seconds to try and find a good spot. Cram yourself in a locker or lay down under a car if you're on the street. And I think that this is cool to me because I like the idea of something that always made Resident Evil famous in the first place as a survival horror game is a lot of people called it a save one bullet shooter. This term actually came from Resident Evil because basically it came from the very morbid joke that if you're shooting a bunch of zombies, you need to save one bullet for yourself. And I like the idea that if you're trying to fight the Nemesis, you may need to save that very last bullet. This to me looks so perfect, but the craziest thing, it is coming April 3rd. We're going to be playing this in about 5 short months. Hopefully we get another good demo. I think that the demo for the Resident Evil 2 remake was absolutely flawless. I'm so curious. By far the most insane thing though is, remember that there was that weird little beta test that happened called Project Resistance. It was like a multiplayer mode for Resident Evil. This allowed you to choose whether to be the heroes or the villains, and the bad guys would basically get to control the monsters, and the heroes had to try and fight them off. It's sort of like a Resident Evil-ish version of Left 4 Dead. Very, very different, but sort of at least echoes of those themes. Well, they revealed that not only is this coming soon, it's going to be part of the Resident Evil 3 remake. So just by buying the game, you automatically get the entire game of Project Resistance. I'm excited and curious to see how big it turns out to be. Now, obviously, we had the Mercenaries mode back in the original games, and those were, if we're just being brutally freaking honest here, they were tiny. The Mercenaries mode was fun, it was nice to play it over and over again, but it was basically just one map, and it was all reused assets. So the fact that this time around, instead of getting just that, the fact that we're going to be getting a giant, cool, new thing that's never existed before in the Resident Evil universe for the price of the game that we're already buying, it's so cool. This state of play was very, very good, and it certainly makes me think, I wish that Sony did more in this style. Almost no filler, all packed with great stuff, everything in here, from the fact that they revealed more stuff about the Alien vs. Predator game, to the DLC they showed, all of it looked very, very spectacular. But what do you think? Did you get a chance to watch this state of play, or did you accidentally wake up late like I did and have to watch it after everybody else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. God, I'm still just, it's hard to believe that this is real. Even after having watched several minutes of gameplay for the Resident Evil 3 remake, it's crazy that it's real. I'm very happy. thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.